Hey guys, we are going to do a new Gulf store using Ruby on Rails from scratch. So the lab sheet is given to you, and also the files that you need for this lab are basically located here. Now, most importantly, what we need to start with is to open this lab sheet from Google Doc. I will download it in my computer, so it's much easier for me to navigate between Microsoft Word and from the cloud in AWS. You need to make sure that you log into AWS Educate, and then you start your starter account, and then you open the console, and you should be here in Cloud9. Now from Cloud9, what we need to do is to open the IDE, and that IDE will be used in order to create our software. So we wait for it until it is fully connected. And now I go back and I start to read what is the requirement of this application. And the first step, we want to create a new Rails project called Gulf Store. So I am here in the terminal. Just let me delete this because this is from my preparation for this tutorial. And now in the terminal, I type in the command Rails new Gulf Store. Now this should be creating a new application for me here. I need to call the directory Gulf Store and be in the same folder. Now if you go back to this, we should be able to run the server just to make sure we are basically seeing everything correctly. Now the step that most of you forget, which is after you run the server, you have to go to preview running application, and you come up to this screen and you open and you make sure you see the welcome page from Rails. Now I will stop this server, or I will keep it running, which is much better if you want to keep updating and checking the result, and I will open a new terminal. Now make sure you are in the Gulf Store folder and carry on with the rest of the lab, where we need to see now what we need to do. In this step, we are going to create a scaffold for the catalog. You see, this is a Gulf Store. We are going to sell a product, and each product should have a category, a brand, a price, a description, and a title, as you can see here in the table. So the command that we want to put is this: Rails generate scaffold item, and then we carry on with the rest. So go back, type in this command, and run. Every time we generate something using scaffold, we need to do rack db migrate, because the previous command, guys, just to create a controller for me. So if I go to app and I see that there is a new controller called items controller, and because we use a scaffold, it's by default created an index method, a show method, a new item method, and edit method, and the create method as well. Plus we created destroy for delete, and so on. Now if you want to check that what you are doing is correct, if you look to the DB, now the migration has not taken any command from the create command. So we cannot see now a database created in SQLite. Now look what happened when I do rack db migrate. Now the migration has been finished. Now I could see there is a new file, SQLite.3. Now if I do right click, download this file, if you have installed DB browser for SQLite, you can press OK, and you will be able to see the content of this database. And as you see here, we have a new table called item, where we have ID, title, description, price, image, URL, and so on, which is similar to what we ask you to do in this table. Now potentially your application now has a new item and it has been migrated, so it could be possible for us to enter a new item because we use a scaffold. Now, if you look to the lab sheet, it's asking you to enter some data in this database. So these are the data that we want to enter. As I explained, there is 3 methods how you can do that. Whether you enter them via the website, which means you come to Rails and you delete this question mark and you say items and you create a new item. And then you put whatever I want you to enter in the title, then in the description, then in the price, then the image URL. Now the image URL, we save it as a local file so we can read it from the assets of the app. Or we can save it in the database as a binary file, and this binary file will be used later on for us. So now I have added a new item. Carry on from this step and fill all the items I ask you to fill using the same concept. Create a new item, put the item title, the description of the item, the price of the item, and then the file name or the image URL of the item, the category, and the brand. So we create now a new item. I press back by mistake, so I could be able to do this again. The image URL, we need to make this is correct. Category wood, and the brand is this brand. At any stage you want to check whether you are doing the right thing, you can go back, and basically this is very important for your assignment. You can download this file again to see that the new modification you made to the database has been reflected. So if you open now the item table and you say browse data for items, you should be able to see the new item that I add via the website already in your database. Now the next step is to go after we do this, and we need to basically upload what I gave you in Moodle, which is basically the document, images, and the Gulf Store images and the style sheet. So you can download both to your computer first and then unzip them. And once you open it, you see that this Gulf Store image has 2 folders and 4 images. Select all and copy, or you can drag and drop them to the console here in Cloud9. So come to the app, assets, and inside images now, I want to add those things inside image. So inside image, I should see now books, sites, and all the images that I want to add. And the next thing I want to do is to upload the style sheet. So this will be a Gulf style sheet, and I add it to this folder here in the style sheet. So now I have the Gulf style sheet and I have all the images. Now if you refresh the page, you might see no new modification to this due to the caching, but we need to update the document, which is what we have in the layout view application.html. We need to view it or to update it with this code. So we copy all of this and we come back to our app. He said app, view, layout, application.html.arb, and we select everything and we paste. The only modification we did is basically we add the tag for the style sheet, which telling the Ruby, the Rails application, use all the style sheet that I provide in the assets. Also use all the JavaScript in the assets. Now go back, refresh, and carry on with the next of the lab. If you want to see an immediate impact of this, you can copy the content I put for you in this page in this file. If you want to see a better interface for your application, just save this and now refresh your app page. You should be able to see the new content with the new reflection, where all image now make a good insight, and also the good style or the new style has been implemented or applied to your web application. Now let me go back and finish the rest of the lab. So I will go to this step where I need to create now a content and a page, a static page for about us and contact us. Rails allow me to do this by generating a controller for the static page. So I copy this command, I go back to my Rails terminal, and I paste the command Rails generate static page. Now what you will see, inside the view you have now two static pages. You can basically define those, you can amend them, you can write anything inside them like a HTML tag, like a normal HTML tag. Let me change this to lowercase, and this is a sample page. I save this, and later on you can basically modify what you want to show in the about us and contact.html as well. Now how we link them? In order to see those pages applied to your application, you need to go back and check in the configuration of your application that in the root.rb we can now have a static pages about and the static pages contact in the root. And you see now the item which I create using scaffold is included already in the root. So we make sure now the root.rb is basically having those information, which it does, and now I carry on to the rest of the application. I could verify that those are working by simply go to my domain, my main page, and I say static pages about. You see, this is the page I just put, and it has been rendered in the body of the application. After that, we need to carry on and to create a catalog layout. We want to put the image on the left hand side of each item. We provide a title page on the right, and we display the description as below. So we need to copy this code and we go back to our Rails application, and he said we need to update which file? It's app view items index.html.arb. So we go to the view item and we look for index.html.arb. And as I said before in the class, index.html is basically an HTML file, but the only difference, now we can mix HTML code with a Ruby code. Every time you see this less than sign or greater than sign with the percentage, this means now we are going to run a server-side Ruby code. That's pretty much what we are doing here. Now I copy everything. He said I need to replace everything we have here with the content of this file. And now I need to refresh my page just to make sure everything is fine, and I need to show one application. So now this is the new style of my application. It's look like it seems to be working. Everything is fine. Now you might be looking for more, or sometimes the images are not appearing. That's it due to the content caching. And by the way, because we add those files to the assets, and those assets were not loaded inside the web server, so sometimes they will be loaded. If not, you need to turn off your Rails server, turn it back again to see those images. But you can carry on as well with the rest of the lab instruction. Now, most of the issue we face were located when we create a limited user functionality. And by the way, this is not the optimal way of activating a user model in your app. Later on, we will use something called a GEM called device, which will give us a full authentication model for signing up, creating a new user, authenticating, and allowing user to log in. The first step now is to generate a controller for user. So I back to the terminal, I run Rails generate user, and to verify, I could go back to controllers, and I will see now there is a new user generated with a new method, because the command that I put was Rails generate controller users and with a new method called new. Okay? Now after that, he wants me to generate a model. So I go to Rails again and I type Rails generate a model called user, where we have name as a string and email as a string. Now, because we create a model, every time you create a data model, that model should be migrated to the database. So we need to carry on, and we put the last command, which is Rails DB migrate. So once we migrate the database, it should be obvious now, and we should see a new DB called user. So if you download this file now, open it, you see now I have a new table called user with ID, which is auto-generated field by Rails migration, name and email, and created at and updated at is also a timestamp added by Rails migration to your application. Now the next step after this, if we want to enter a new data, we access Rails console, and this means it will give me like a shell similar to MySQL console. And I said, you create a variable called username, user for user new, and update it with your content, with your email and with your name. So I will change this to my email and I press enter. Now the next step, if I want to save, is to save this record, and I could exit. Now it should give me commit transaction, and it should tell me now that user has been created at specific timestamp, and we exit. So I exit the console now. I should be in this step. Now in the controller page, we want to add the following code. We want to define a method for login, for admin login, for logout as well. So I will go to app controller, user controller. So I will go to the app, then to controllers, then to user controller, and I will open it. Now I need to make sure I am adding inside the class, because this is the end of the class, and this is the end of the new method I generate using the Rails controller generation, and I will save this. The next step after that is we want now to add those to the root.erb. So if I go back to my root, which is basically in the app, it's in the config folder roots.rb, I need to add those two things. You see, get user /new is already there. Now I will put those, which are get /admin. I'm linking the path from the main URL of the website /admin to users admin _ login. And also I'm linking logout to user logout. I need to make sure that the user controller, my user controller, have those methods, because this is user #admin login. Now I save this and I carry on with the next instruction. He said, I need to go now to make some changes in the application.html.arb to update this link and update the following section to look like. Now go copy this and find that application.html. You see where is the navigation bar? This is where I need to put my new navigation bar. So I save, I take all of these, just make sure you don't destroy the HTML tag, and I save it. Now I make sure I have the right format, because this is closing this and this is closing the menu, and I should be fine now. If I refresh the page, I could see now a navigation bar with login, log out, contact us, about, a product. Now one more thing. We said admin should be small letter because we add /admin in the root. We say /admin with a small letter, not with capital letter. Items are a product. About is going to be the static pages /about. And this as will apply to content, the static pages /content, and everything else should be fine. I have the admin method and the logout method linked here in my root. Now if I go, I refresh, I need to check they are working. If not, we need to do something about it. Maybe we fix it, or we need to do something else with this. Now the last thing we need to do after this is to generate a new card. And you see here, I'm not generating a model, I'm only generating a controller for the card. So I will go copy this command, put it here, generate a card, and then we need to update the controller in the card to look like the following. So we will need to include this code, and this code is basically going to enable us to add a specific item to the cart, because every time we want to add, we need to get the ID of the item, and we add it to a cart variable in that ID location, because we want to add one item, second item, third item. So we need to add the item at the end or the top of the stack. So I go from my controller, I look, there is a new controller called cart. I paste all of these methods here. So now the content of cart controller look with the following method. This is the method I want to execute every time I want to add an item to my cart. This is the index of the cart, which is to view the cart content. This is how we change the cart, and so on. Maybe I have extra in, so I will delete it. Now I go back, refresh my page, and let me see if I miss one step. Yes, I have now to go to the item index.html.arb. In the item, so I take that code, I copy it, and he said I need to update the cart view index.html. So I go back to my app, to my views, and look for cart. This is the index.html, and I will paste everything I have there. Now we need to link this to our product, so we need to go back and we change the app view item index.html to reflect the cart. So that catalog, the one that we create just before, every time we open the cart, just me show you here. Every time I click on one item, it takes me to this page. Now I want to add, to modify this page, just to add, to enable the user to add to the cart. So I go back to my item index.html.arb, I select everything and I paste the new content that I have from the code here in this page. Save, and now refresh. We should be able now to see all product, add to cart. So now I can add any product to cart. Because I have not made add to cart method implemented yet, we will do this later on, it will not work. But for the moment now we have something called add to cart. So when we go back to our root, we need to make sure that we have get cart index, but we don't have the other method, the most important one, which is what will happen if we call a cart add or a cart delete or a cart update. So these should be programmed now based on the following things. So I have in the cart, let me just show you. I have in the cart controller the first method, which is add. So I could just simply say get cart add. Now the second method is index is already there. You can see that it's already there. Now we want also cart change. So we get cart slash change. And also we have a method for checkout, and we need to put another method for get cart slash checkout. So I save, now I go back, refresh, and now try add to cart. It's not working, so I need to turn off the server and come back to this again. But I need still to create a model for that, so we need to wait. Now, the next step, we want to create in the app view, we want to create a new file, and we call this file footer.arb. Now, just go to this location, app view layout. That's the view. In the layout, I will do right click, okay, and the new file, and I will call it underscore footer.html.arb. Let me rename this. Okay. Now in that file, he said, put this content, because here we are going to activate what is called Rails debugger, because this is a method for us to see in which controller we are, in which model we are using at a certain stage. Now inside our application.html.arb, which is this thing, the main controller of the app, inside it, he wants me to add the following. Code, which is basically only to yield the content of the store. So you see now I have that controller here. Now just let me delete this yield. You see this yield means run every single Ruby code I have before rendering the layout footer. Now refresh. You should be able to see the page, and you should be able to see the content. Actually here I should put it. Wait. I already have a container for footer. Okay, so let me add it here so it will be much elegant and cooler. So now I can see the container. Now in the next step we want to put everything, which is update the main HTML file, and just to make sure it is the same as this content, and by this we finish doing our online store. Thanks for seeing this video and see you in the next